Have you been successful in the RAOA or wholesale business models and are tired of constantly being on the hunt looking for products to sell? Then you are in the right place. It's time to design a lifestyle for you to be your own boss and enjoy everything life has to offer you. Let's get started right now. You're listening to the Getting Started with Private Label podcast, episode number 5. Hi, my name is Rob Kryn, and today I'm going to talk about having a strong foundation when creating a private label product. We've all heard the adage that you need a strong foundation when building a house, and that's always the first thing you see when a house is being built. The same is true when creating a private label product. The first thing that needs to be done when starting on your private label journey is to do keyword research and validation. That is the private label foundation that needs to be done first thing. Just like when building a house, if your foundation is not strong, then everything else will come crashing down eventually. And if you didn't do the proper research and validation with your private label product, your product will come crashing down, so to speak, eventually. So what is a strong foundation for private label? Essentially, you need to pass certain sets of criteria in order to make sure that you will have a successful product. There are all different sets of criteria that people use, and there are no absolutes on what those criteria should be. But here are some things to consider when doing your keyword research and validation. The first is probably the most obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people forget to do this one, and that is making sure there is demand for your product. Sometimes people get so caught up on so many other things, they forget that main foundational item. The next one that is important is determining if there is an opportunity to beat out your competition during the honeymoon phase. That is, the competition level is not too large. Once those criteria are met, the next important one is to make sure you can make your product unique. You definitely need to differentiate your product to be successful in the long run. Otherwise, you're just competing on price and/or reviews. You want to focus on what is important to the buyer. You don't just want to make it unique and different if it doesn't appeal to the buyer. And making it unique, it doesn't have to be a great design better than your competition, even though that's great to do if you can. But you want to understand what the buyer wants and make your product design in a way that the buyer wants. How do you know what the buyer wants? Well, that's part of the whole research process, but one way is to look at reviews from existing sellers. What are the good things they are doing? You want to include those. What are the bad reviews saying? Make sure your product doesn't do those things or is designed in a way to prevent certain issues. Now, once you have those types of items determined, you also need to make sure that you can get the product made profitably and that you have the budget to support it. It doesn't make any sense to move forward, even if all of the other criteria pass with flying colors, if you can't be profitable selling it or you don't have the budget to make sure you can order enough to not run out of inventory. By focusing on these key areas, you can make sure you have a strong foundation for your private label product. Okay, so today's action step is to read the reviews of your competitors for one of your private label product ideas. Focus on the 4- and 5-star reviews for the good things they are doing, and then the 1- and 2-star reviews for ideas on how you can improve upon your idea. Thank you so much for joining me today in the Getting Started with Private Label podcast. Next week, I can't wait to connect up again as we go through another episode where we will teach you tangible takeaways that you can apply and take action immediately after listening. Thanks for listening to the Getting Started with Private Label podcast. Get additional information, trainings, and tools at robchrin.com. That's ROBCHRIN.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next time.